In a world where appearances often deceive, a shocking incident at a luxurious five-star hotel became an unforgettable lesson in humility and justice. It all began on an ordinary evening when a well-dressed black man walked into the grand lobby of the hotel he had recently purchased. Unbeknownst to the staff, this man was no ordinary guest. He was their new boss. However, instead of being greeted with warmth, he was met with hostility and rejection. The employees, blinded by prejudice, refused to serve him, dismissing him as someone who didn't belong in such an exclusive setting. Little did they know, their actions would soon lead to a dramatic revelation that would leave them speechless and redefine the future of the hotel forever. What happened next was nothing short of extraordinary. Stay tuned to hear how this man turned the tables in a way no one saw coming. As the man stood in the lavish lobby, the opulent chandeliers above casting a golden glow, the tension was palpable. He had come to quietly observe his newest investment, a place where he dreamed of creating an atmosphere of elegance and inclusivity. But instead of welcoming smiles, he was greeted with dismissive glances and curt responses. The staff whispered among themselves, their judgments loud and unfiltered. To them, he didn't fit the profile of someone who belonged there. They refused to even let him book a table at the exclusive restaurant, claiming it was fully reserved, a blatant lie. Unfazed by their behavior, the man calmly took a seat in the lounge, watching as guests were treated with the utmost care while he remained invisible. He wasn't angry, but his resolve grew stronger. Behind the calm exterior, he was quietly planning his next move. The staff had no idea who they were dealing with. As he sat in the lounge, his eyes scanned the room, taking in every detail. The way the staff moved with precision for certain guests but avoided him was impossible to miss. A server carrying a tray of champagne brushed past his table without so much as a glance. Another manager strolled by, offering warm greetings to other patrons while pointedly ignoring him. It wasn't just rude, it was deliberate. Meanwhile, the employees seemed smug, convinced they'd put him in his place. One whispered to a colleague, and they both stifled laughter as they glanced his way. The man remained composed, sipping his water and occasionally jotting notes into a small leather notebook. To them, he was just a nuisance. To him, they were making his next decisions incredibly easy. The atmosphere thickened when a senior staff member approached, ready to escalate the situation further. The man, still calm, looked up with an expression that hinted at something no one else yet knew. The senior staff member, a polished manager with an air of superiority, approached the man's table with a forced smile that barely masked his irritation. "Sir, if you're not a guest or have a reservation, I'm afraid I'll have to ask you to leave," he said, his tone dripping with condescension. The man looked up, meeting his eyes with a steady gaze, but he said nothing. His silence seemed to unnerve the manager, who shifted uncomfortably but held his ground. Around the room, other staff paused their tasks, sensing the tension. A few guests turned their heads, curious about the unfolding scene. The man's calm demeanor only added to the confusion. Who was he, and why wasn't he reacting? Slowly, he stood up, towering over the manager yet remaining composed. He pulled out his phone, tapped the screen a few times, and handed it over. "Call this number," he said softly. The manager hesitated, but the man's unshakable confidence left little room for argument. As the phone rang, the entire room seemed to hold its breath. No one could have guessed that the call would change everything. The manager reluctantly held the phone to his ear, his smug expression faltering as the call connected. The voice on the other end was calm but firm, and whatever was said caused the color to drain from his face. He quickly handed the phone back, stammering, "I didn't realize," but the man raised a hand, signaling him to stop. By now, whispers were spreading across the lobby. Guests and staff alike exchanged puzzled glances, sensing something significant was unfolding. The man's calm, quiet authority was unmistakable, but the staff, still in denial, tried to brush it off. Probably just bluffing, one muttered under their breath, loud enough for him to hear. but he didn't react. Moments later, the sound of polished shoes echoed through the room. A second man entered, his presence commanding attention instantly. He was impeccably dressed and exuded authority. Without hesitation, he approached the man and greeted him warmly. "Mr. Johnson, it's an honor to see you here. Shall we proceed to your office?" The entire lobby fell silent. The staff froze, their faces etched with disbelief and panic, as the reality of the situation began to sink in. But this was only the beginning. The lobby remained deathly silent as the realization rippled through the staff. Mr. Johnson, the man they had dismissed, insulted, and ignored, was the new owner of the hotel. Faces flushed with embarrassment, and whispers of regret spread like wildfire. The manager who had confronted him fidgeted nervously, trying to piece together an apology, but Mr. Johnson was already walking past him, heading toward the office with his associate. Just before entering, Mr. Johnson paused and turned back to face the staff. His voice was calm but carried a weight that made every word hit hard. "I came here tonight to see how guests are treated without special attention," he began. "What I witnessed was unacceptable: bias, disrespect, and a failure to uphold the very standards this hotel is known for." He let the words hang for a moment, the tension thick. Then a faint smile crossed his face. "But I believe in second chances. Starting tomorrow, you'll receive comprehensive training on customer service and inclusivity. Those willing to adapt and grow will have a place here. Those who aren't, well, you can leave now." The staff stood frozen, processing the weight of his words. Just as he turned to leave, Mr. Johnson added one final twist. "Oh, and tonight's profits. They're being donated to a local organization that fights for equity and inclusion. Let this serve as a lesson. The way we treat people matters, no matter who they are." With that, he walked away, leaving the room in stunned silence, his point made and his vision for the future clear. The next morning, the hotel buzzed with a different energy. Staff gathered for the mandatory training, humbled by the previous night's events and eager to make amends. Mr. Johnson's quiet leadership had left a profound impact, not through anger or retaliation, but through dignity and purpose. He walked through the lobby, greeting each employee with a nod, making it clear he valued their efforts moving forward. Word of the incident spread quickly, and many in the community praised Mr. Johnson for his grace and vision. Guests began to arrive, drawn not just by the luxury of the hotel, but by the story behind it. A place transformed into a symbol of respect and inclusion. As Mr. Johnson stood by the large windows overlooking the city, he felt a sense of fulfillment. His message was clear: real change starts with action, and everyone deserves to be treated with dignity, no matter who they are.